Hey, are you thinking about buying an e-bike? Well, if so, you're on the right path. E-bikes are changing the world in a very good way. But there's a lot to consider when purchasing an e-bike, whether it be your first e-bike, whether it be your fifth e-bike, or whether it be an e-bike for a loved one. Well, my name is Bart. I'm a veteran in the bicycle world. I'm a veteran and experienced mechanic when it comes to e-bikes. And believe me, after owning a bicycle shop, I have seen it all walk through my door. So stay tuned in this video. I would love to give you some inside information on your e-bike purchase. And no, I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I don't own a bicycle shop anymore, so I can come to you as someone from the backside, someone that has seen the direct-to-consumer e-bikes, that has seen bike shop quality e-bikes, from the high end to the low end and everything in between, including those customers' experiences. So my only agenda is to educate people on the right purchase. And I'm not saying what right purchase that is per brand, but just manage your expectations to what you're gonna get for your budget. So stay tuned for the rest of the video. Actually, it's gonna be a video series where I talk about this subject because there's so many people in this world right now that are gravitating towards e-bikes. And like I said, I think it's making the world a better place. Just real quickly, I am a fan of the e-bike. I am a cyclist. I've been riding and racing bicycles for as long as I can remember. So people ask me, hey Bart, what do you think about e-bikes? I see what kind of benefits e-bikes are having for people. It gets people out enjoying the great outdoors. It gives you light fitness. It definitely boosts your mental health, boosts your physical health, and it's good for the environment. So let me just touch base on that key word about managing your expectations. So as a veteran of the bicycle industry, when I say I've seen it all, I see what happens when people buy bikes off the internet. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You know, as a lot of bike shop professionals are going to tell you, hey, go to a bike shop and buy that bike because you're going to make a mistake buying something off the internet. Well, the spectrum of the internet has gotten big. So yes, there are companies that I definitely wouldn't recommend buying off of. I'm going to show you how to weed those out. And then there's companies that are actually pretty good B-tier players. And then there's obviously bike shops. My quick story, my bike shop didn't make enough money for me to survive, and I had to, I say my bike shop failed, but I didn't make enough money to feed my family. So this subject hits hard when I'm saying that a direct-to-consumer e-bike purchase can be good. But I'm also going to show you a way that you can actually support your local bike shop during that process. Of course, my recommendation is if you have a local bike shop, go into that bike shop and explore. Go ask some questions. Go ask them, if I buy a bike off the internet, can you work on it? Will you help me fix this bike? Will you help me maintain this bike? Don't be surprised if the answer is no. If you don't buy it here, we're not working on it. And believe me, like I said in my video yesterday, I got so many comments on this. Your bike shop is not trying to segregate you. They're just realizing that the e-bike repair is not a profitable business, and they don't want to end up like me. They don't want to end up broke because they helped too many people fix unprofitable bikes. They took in too many unprofitable jobs. So this video is not really about that. I'm going to go more into depth about that, and there's plenty of YouTube reviewers. Check out the Go Grab a channel. That guy is trying to make it profitable for his bike shop. Swift Bike Fix, he's a mobile mechanic that talks about the repair side of it. Look at some of my videos. I mean, when I was going broke, I explained in detail why these weren't profitable jobs. But I love the bicycle so much, and I love seeing people get health, fitness, and happiness from the bicycle. I still want to continue this mission to help people with those bikes. So, especially now that I'm not affiliated with some of the bigger bike brands, Trek, Specialized, Cannondale, Giant. Those are good brands. And I do recommend those brands for your e-bike purchase, but I realize that a lot of times that's putting people at a whole different price point than what they're comfortable with. Price matters, and I've had a lot of friends that would come in and ask me e-bike questions, and I would steer them away direct-to-consumer brands just because I've seen the ramifications of people buying a bike and not having the right expectation. I've seen it time and time again. As an e-bike mechanic, I'm staying in some campgrounds right now. The e-bikes have become very popular with the RV crowd. I love to see it. You know, people have these big RVs, but yet they carry these e-bikes around, and that's how they get around when they park their RVs. It's bringing people so much joy and happiness. But when people find out I'm an e-bike mechanic, they all rush over to my campground. They all have questions. They all have problems, you know, and that's the problem with a D2C, a direct-to-consumer, rather than going into your local bike shop. And once again, I'm not cutting down either. I'm actually on that side that I think it helps people get their first e-bike. You know, it gets you, it's that gateway drug, you know, and then you kind of gravitate to other, you know, other bicycling. But there's a lot of people having problems with their bikes and their purchasing decision. This is actually an e-bike that I bought for myself outside the bike shop, and I'll tell you right now, it's got 367 miles on it, and it has a bad motor. And I'm definitely not cutting down this company to ride one up. It's out of the warranty period. It's, you know, it's my fault more than likely that this motor went bad, and it's because I let it sit up in a hot shed all summer while I was in Europe. I had it sitting right next to my regular bikes, and they didn't go bad, but the Planetary, like, this bike won't go backwards now. As an e-bike mechanic, I know what's wrong with it. It's got a gear system inside that's frozen up. It's not, even though this is my bike and I am an e-bike mechanic, it's not worth my time to go in and try to fix that. If I try to fix it, it's basically just to keep it out of a landfill, because I am conscious about what happens to the environment. And people say, well, you know, these e-bike batteries are bad for the environment. I don't know enough about that. I do know that, you know, gasoline and petrol fuels are not good for our ozone layer, not good for the environment. I'm not getting into the political side of it, but I do see these things being a very clean, quiet mode of transportation. Cost you pennies per mile, you know, as long as the value of the bike stays there. So, you know, this was never an expensive bike to start with, $1,000. And people are probably going, well, $1,000, that's expensive. Well, it depends on what you're into. You know, when you're a cyclist like I am, I mean, it's not unheard of to spend, you know, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $15,000 on a bike. People say that's crazy. I get it. You know, you have to be into cycling to understand that that's part of our lifestyle. So when I picked up this bike for basically $1,000, I felt like I was getting a good value for everything this bike was going to give me. I had managed my own expectations, knowing that this is not the end all of bicycles. This is not going to be the last bike I ever buy in my life. I figured if it lasts a couple thousand, you know, 1,000 miles, or a couple years, I let a lot of my friends borrow this bike. I did a lot of videos. You know, I had big group rides out of my bike shop, and people would say, hey, do you let e-bikes come? Yes, I'll let e-bikes come. So I let people, like photographers, use this bike so they could take pictures of us videoing. We use this bike on group rides in the wintertime, so, you know, people could have their jackets and extra water. We use it as a Sherpa. You know, so even though it didn't last as long as I would like, I can get a replacement part for this bike. About $200, I can buy a new motor wheel assembly and have this bike, you know, going again. I think I've made up my mind that I don't want to invest any more money in this bike, so I'm probably going to find a high school shop kid or someone that wants to try to, you know, learn about e-bike repair and donate this to them. Hey, if you want to buy a lightly used e-bike with a bad motor, let me know. They're hard to sell, and they end up in the landfills. So when I say manage your expectations, it's hard when you're saying $1,000 or $2,000 for $2,000. And I'm going to put this category of bike, a direct-to-consumer, hub drive motor, bicycle, low quality bicycle component e-bike. If you want something that your wife and you can take on a vacation and go explore outside your car, this is a great purchase. You know, if you want something where you can park your car and run errands around town, this is a great purchase. If you're looking to boost your health and fitness and you don't have much health and fitness to start with, this is a great way to do it. It's exciting. You get on these bikes and you ride around and it gives you, you know, a bit of assistance. And I'm going to talk more about what kind of assistance these bikes give you in another video. This bike is just to manage your expectations and let you know it's okay to buy a direct-to-consumer brand, but you have to weed those out. Even me as a professional bicycle mechanic, when I had a problem with this brand here, the Ride 1-Up, I realized it's out of the warranty period. So I didn't call up that company and ask them to diagnose my problem. And, you know, I just knew what I needed as a replacement motor. I was happy that they responded to my email very quickly. I tried to give them a call, they didn't answer. They do have a phone number. A lot of these companies don't have a phone number. That's probably one thing you should definitely check out, make sure they have a phone number. Just because they didn't answer, it might have been a bad time of the day. Well, I didn't always answer the phone in my bike shop when I was busy, so I didn't leave a message. I left an email and they did get back to me, and they had the part in stock. So Ride 1-Up, if you guys see this, I'm not cutting down your brand. I actually think you're probably one of the better direct-to-consumer brands out there. It's just my personal situation with this bike is it didn't last me 350 miles, but it lasted a couple years, and I will take it. It's my fault in neglecting this bike and letting it stay in a hot shed all summer long that caused the problem with this motor. But just know that if you have a problem with your direct-to-consumer e-bike, you're probably not going to be able to bring it to a bike shop to have it fixed. Once again, just look at my other videos. It's not profitable. If bike shops do unprofitable work, they're going to go out of business like I did. So it's just one of those things that the excitement of the e-bike purchasing world, and I'm so glad people are buying these bikes, has not caught up with the repair side on the part side. There's some companies that are trying to make that work, and they're finding out that it's not profitable. I tried, and believe me, I get a lot of comments. Hey, did you try to do this? Did you try to do that? Yes, I am an electronic specialist. I am a bicycle specialist. Just the bike lift I had to put in my bike shop was over $5,000. A power lift to pick this off the ground. So my employees didn't get hernias or throw out their back and say they can't come to work. So I didn't get workman's comp claims. I bought the right equipment. Now to pay for that $5,000 lift, I've got to charge more for a repair. So when you came in to get your flat tire repaired and it was $90 to $100, half of that is to try to, I had a minimum fee to put that bike on the lift. I don't have to charge that fee with a regular bike. I got into the bicycle industry to work on regular bikes. And all of a sudden, e-bikes came out. Luckily, I love seeing people on bikes, and I did see so many smiles that I saw that this was a good thing. I just couldn't make it profitable for my bike shop. And I'm finding out through the bicycle industry that most bike shops can't make them profitable. Even doing the maintenance to them, like tearing apart the motors, cleaning out the brushes and the gears, and lubing everything up and putting them back together, is not profitable. I'll go into that into a whole another video. This is about managing your expectations. And part of that is having support in case you have a problem. So when you are buying direct to consumer, just realize you are bypassing the bicycle shop. So the bicycle shop is not getting anything for this bike. A lot of bike shops won't even put them together for you. And I'm finding out that, and I found out the hard way, once you touch that bike, you're pretty much liable for it. So people say, oh man, you should, the videos say you should be able to put that bike together in a half an hour. Maybe you can in your garage. But when you're a professional bicycle mechanic with insurance, you have to go through a pre-delivery checklist. That means you have to do things over and above what the home mechanic is going to do. even though like this bike came fairly well assembled, I still had to go through and I made sure every bolt was tight. Every connector had a corrosion resistant silicone. You know, I had made sure the headsets were tight and the bearings were seated. The brakes on these bikes are something else. They don't give you the highest quality brakes, but yet they can go 28 miles an hour. There's a mixture of mechanical and electrical components that are mixed into this bike. And there's a mixture of things to make the specs look good on paper or on your computer. The wattage of the battery, the 48 volts, the amperage of the battery, the capacity of the battery, the range of the battery, the power of the motor. So all those things are important. That's what people look at, but they don't look at the bicycle components that are on this. So this is what's called a Shimano Atlas. It's a fairly good low range derailleur. It works great on your $500-600 hybrid. Someone that's buying a hybrid bicycle to go ride around the neighborhood, ride around the campground, they're never going to be throwing 750 watts into that derailleur. But as soon as you have an e-bike with that derailleur and you throw 750 watts into it, there could be problems. And a lot of times it's not the derailleur, it's the alignment of the derailleur and the chain. There's so much to these things. I used to tell a lot of customers, just let me take some bolt cutters, cut that chain off and use it as a scooter. You know, because that's what a lot of people do anyway. They just use it as a scooter. Not all e-bikes have throttles, you know, so realize that when you go to your Specialized dealer and you buy a Specialized Como and you pay more for a premium product and then it doesn't have a throttle. I get a lot of people asking me about some of my past videos I did, hey, how do you put a throttle on that? A lot of these bikes are not designed as throttle bikes. So realize that when you buy a bike shop quality bike, they're not always going to be throttle activated. But a lot of those will have a mid-drive motor with a Bosch or a Shimano. There's so much to e-bikes. I'm going to go through in my video series. I'm going to pick certain topics and go through those topics. This video, I really want to explain the theory of it is okay to buy direct to consumer, but please just manage your expectations. For me, I didn't get as many miles out of this bike as I wanted to, but people got a lot of enjoyment out of this bicycle. You know, we got a lot of pictures. We got a lot of group rides. So was it worth $1,000 to me? Yeah, I guess so. And right now, believe me, $1,000 means a lot. I don't have a job at the moment. I lost my bike shop. I'm in some financial trouble. So I wouldn't give $1,000 for this bike right now, but back when things were flowing pretty good, $1,000 was fantastic. So just know there's a lot to the e-bike. There's a lot to the e-bike lifestyle. I understand all aspects of it because I've seen all aspects of it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the motivational, the part where people get these things and no one wants to work on them and they just think that the bike industry is out to get them. We're not. But businesses need to turn a dollar. You know, I used to say I'd be happy with peanut butter and jelly money. I couldn't even make peanut butter and jelly money on these things. So, but I still enjoy them and I see a lot of people enjoying them. A lot of the people I see complaining, and I hate to judge a book by its cover, but you see a guy in a campground with a $150,000 camper and he's complaining because his $1,000 e-bike, he didn't get 2 years of use out of it before it broke. Or he tells me the story how he brought it to the bike shop and they want to charge $100 to change a tube. The bike shop's not out to get you. They got to cover their cost. And I know I get a lot of comments on that. Well, it shouldn't cost that much to change a tube. Well, when you break down the time, effort, liability, risk, you try to do it. You know how many people try to change their own tube, disconnected the motor and then shorted it back out? And all of a sudden they've got an anchor because they didn't want to pay $100 to have a tube changed. That's why I say it's good to walk in your bike shop and ask them these questions. Will you assemble my bike if I bring it to you in a box? Will you fix my tube if I get a flat tire? how much is that going to cost? You know, just so you can manage those expectations down the road and know that if you get a flat tire on this, it's going to cost you $100. You'll get the bike back with a smile and you'll be able to ride again. And sometimes that enjoyment of riding around is worth it. I still think it's a very inexpensive lifestyle to get into that brings you a lot of joy. But there's going to be a cost involved. And, you know, this is November of 2025. The economy's in trouble. Bike shops are in trouble. There's bike mechanics losing their jobs. So, you know, support your local bike shop as much as you can. If you do end up buying a direct consumer, just be honest with your bike shop and say, you know, I looked at your bike and, you know, I appreciate the time and effort you took in it, but I decided to go with this other company instead. And just own it. You know, I mean, it depends on the culture of that shop. Shop owners and shop employees, just realize that even though you are giving people the best advice, that sometimes it comes down to a price point or people just not able to get the right information. There's so many people I know in the campground I'm staying at that bought bikes because they read a review online, and now they've got they're carrying around these dang boat anchors on the back of their motorhomes that don't work. I think for the most part, these e-bikes are very reliable, but it is mechanical. Like, you know, it's hard to say, you know, well, I'm not going to buy a car because I heard they break down. Or I bought a Toyota, it's supposed to be good, and it broke. I mean, there's every brand, Toyota, Ford, Chevy, Hyundai, you know, they're all good cars, but they all break, you know, and the same, anything mechanical or electronical has, you know, maybe someday the repair side and parts side will equal the sales side. But for right now, I just want to keep people happy. I want to keep people riding. I think the world is a better place when people ride bicycles. And yes, e-bikes are bicycles. And I'm going to go more into a lot of these little subjects. But just know, if you're, to put it bluntly, if you're spending less than $2,000, you're going to get something like this. Something like this can bring you a lot of enjoyment. But just know you're not going to get the best components. You're not going to get the best level of one-on-one service like you would from a bike shop. And there's a lot to do with the insurance of this whole thing as well. You know, these direct-to-consumer companies, I think they cover their ass with all these contracts and paperwork and things that you sign and release before you get the bike. And, you know, once you get it in your hands, if you don't put the brakes up right, or, you know what I've seen a chain lock up a whole rear wheel, you know, and innocent people get hurt. So if you're going to give one of these away for Christmas to your grandkids or something, you know, I mean, my grandfather gave me a little mini bike and I went and skipped my knees and everything else on it. And it wasn't my grandfather. I mean, I want to get kids on these things, but just see if you can get a local bike shop, pay them well to do it, and have them tune it up. Make sure that the you know, adjustment screws on the derailleur, the limit screws, are set good. You know, still this doesn't have a, you know, a clutch derailleur. So if you start hitting bumps, that chain's bouncing around like this, and it can fall off the sprockets and go into a spoke or lock up, get caught between the frame and the cassette and lock up. You know, there's a lot of things that can happen. So as I say, it's all right to buy direct to consumer. Just know, somehow involve your local bike shop. And if your local bike shop just wants to wash their hands of that, then the best thing you can do is just be understanding. Just be understanding of that it's their business's best practice to say no in the beginning, rather than hold your bike for 3 weeks and have to give you something back that's not fixed and still have to charge you. So, bicycle shop professionals really have your best interest at heart. I don't want people to do what I did, you know, and try to fix everybody's stuff and fail. You know, I was the nice guy. You brought me something, I would go over and above to try to fix it, but in the end it wasn't profitable. And now I'm in a bad situation, financially. But I have the love of cycling in my heart. I have a healthy head, unless I start going down that rabbit trail. But I do love to see people out riding bikes, clearing their energy, enjoying the lifestyle. And to me, it's worth it. So get one of these things. Get an e-bike and go enjoy life. Have an e-bike date with your wife or your new girlfriend. There's always something to talk about. I'm going to do much more on this video series, and I'll start focusing on certain topics. But just manage your expectations when you spend your money on a direct-to-consumer company. It's okay to do that. Just realize what you're getting yourself into. I'm saying that the bouquet of life is much more full with an e-bike. So even if it's something that doesn't last you 5 years, you spend $1,500 and it didn't last you 5 years, go get 5 years worth of enjoyment out of it. If you have something that's got a year warranty and it breaks down after the year warranty, don't be happy for what you had. Like there was a lot of enjoyment that happened on this bike. $1,000, I'm okay with that, even though I'm broke. What I'm more concerned about is what happens to this later. You know, I don't want a lot of these things ending up in the landfill. And don't return your e-bikes. You know, there's a lot to returns. I talked about it yesterday in my video, so I don't want to repeat myself. But don't just buy something thinking it's got a 30-day unconditional return, you're going to return it. There's a lot of process that goes with that, and it's not always good for the environment. Let's think about the environment. That's one thing bicycling will do to you. It'll put you out in Mother Nature, and it's amazing. And it's just think how much medicine costs. A few rides on a bicycle is your medicine. You know, I know people that spend $1,000 on a little jar of medicine so their heart doesn't explode. You know, you might be able to just lead a healthier lifestyle, and you don't need that medicine. You know, this could be your medicine. So it's worth it. Buy an e-bike. If you have questions, let me know. And like I said, this video was not to cut down this company. You know, actually, it's a good company. So I just didn't have longevity with this particular bike here. And now I'm going to see if I can pass it on to someone else so they might be able to fix it for 200 bucks. For 200 bucks, you can get a whole new motor and wheel assembly, put it on there, and you're good to go. Bart from Bicycle Rad YouTube. Hey, stick with me on this e-bike series, and I'll talk about it from the heart, the good, the bad, the ugly, what you should look out for on your e-bike purchasing decision, and what you should look forward to out there in the world riding an e-bike. There's good and bads to it all, and I know every side of the story. Bart from Bicycle Rad YouTube. Over and out for now.